Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview. A first look then at what is on the front pages. In the next half hour or so, we'll see what's making the headlines with the Parliamentary sketchwriter, Madeline, and the investigations editor at Open Democracy, Peter Geoghegan. Lovely to see you both and welcome. First of all, front pages then. Let's start with The Sun, leading with the golfing legend Tiger Woods in surgery following that car accident in California. The Metro leading with the potential of vaccine passports, where access to venues and businesses may require proof of a COVID-19 jab. Tiger Woods also pictured, as you can see. The Telegraph reports restrictions could be lifted sooner than expected if real-world data on the vaccine rollout shows large improvements. Calls for the vaccine to be offered door-to-door, according to The Guardian, to stop COVID becoming a disease of the poor. A sharp rise in northern tourism since the Prime Minister's announcement of a roadmap out of lockdown. That's the lead story for the Yorkshire Post. The uptake in tourism following the release of the roadmap has been dubbed the Great British Takeoff by the Daily Mirror. The Express leading on the same story, calling it a stampede for the Great Getaway. Meanwhile, the Financial Times reports there is hope the US markets will return to normal this year. So we're joined then by Madeline, Peter Geoghegan. Welcome then to both of you. Let's kick off with the Metro, shall we? This idea of passports to a normal life. The Prime Minister, Madeline, today talking about the complexities and the ethical questions about this. What does the Metro say and what's your reading of this?
The Metro says that the Prime Minister has tasked Michael Gove, his great Brexit chief, to look seriously at these proposals. And they are slightly distinct from what we've heard previously about vaccine passports, because these wouldn't be the kind where you would simply showing proof of vaccination in order to travel abroad or to admit passengers from abroad into Britain. This would be for aspects of work life and civil life, so things like workplaces, pubs, restaurants, and to determine if you can take part in these kinds of activities. And my reading of it all, I must say I find it all a bit curious actually when you consider the extraordinary take-up of the vaccine in the country, far more than our medical experts and ministers were expecting. And you consider how the extraordinary success with the vaccination rollout. It won't actually be that long until we have vaccinated large swathes of the population. So it does seem an interesting time to be considering bringing in what would be a big national infrastructure of certification to allow you to do everyday activities, and also a kind of change to our way of life. Previously, the assumption has been that you can go to places, but now to kind of show proof in order to enter a venue. I find it rather curious myself.
Yeah, it's almost the antithesis of freedoms as we know it, isn't it? The Prime Minister described it as a novelty for our country. Some suggestion that it could be via an app, for example, tonight I see. But he was very concerned about those elements of society who, for whatever reason, don't get vaccinated, maybe even for medical reasons, communities that so far have not been targeted. Peter, there are some really big questions, aren't there, about those who are getting left behind in terms of vaccines and the implications for them?
Yes, we already know, we've seen lots of statistics about people in the BME community, lower uptakes, but also some people just can't get vaccinated, as you mentioned, for health reasons. Thankfully, so far, it looks like the number of people who won't take the vaccine because they're opposed to it, anti-vax people, is quite low, actually. We don't have the same problem that lots of other European countries seem to have. But by the same token, there's going to be a lot of people who, for various reasons, won't be able to be vaccinated. So you can see why the government's trying to think about, is there a way to kind of work around these people so that we don't end up with a large swathe of the population who could be susceptible, because we still don't know what herd immunity, that phrase we've been hearing about for a year almost, what the numbers for herd immunity actually are, because it varies by different types of diseases and viruses. So we don't know whether it's 70%, 80%, 90%, 95% for COVID-19. So there's a lot of uncertainty. I can understand why the government is looking at this. And clearly it seems to be reasonably early days, but judging by some of the reports we're hearing, that they might be able to use some of the apps that exist for booking tests and things like that. So clearly they are thinking about what infrastructure might be needed to do this if it was to happen.
Let's just go to The Guardian then, because it's kind of related from what we talked about. This is a call for vaccines to be given at home to stop COVID becoming a disease of the poor. This would presumably be, in certain communities, you could literally go bang, bang, bang and have everybody done. Do you think that would be accepted by people? Do you think, Madeline, is that an answer, do you think, to get some people? Because I heard Jonathan Ashworth talking today about we could end up with 40 to 50% of people who don't get the vaccine if 20% of children. For 10% of people, it's not efficacious. 10% of people don't get vaccinated. You soon get up to quite big numbers, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And that would start to impact the R rate and perhaps the rate at which we can unlock the country. I mean, this is a very interesting proposal in The Guardian, because I don't think it's currently something that government has done or has publicly said that they're considering. But the CEO of the Runnymede Trust has urged the government, and I'm sure others have as well, to start going door to door into areas of very low take-up. Now, where I think they may run into a problem here is that they've already, as Peter quite rightly said, we don't have the same kind of problem of kind of anti-vax feeling in the country. And the government has also already done a lot of information campaigns. They've done a lot to try to reach these areas. And I do suspect that perhaps when you do, if you're sending people door to door, which is what they've been arguing for, that there will still be some people who refuse. And, you know, short of, it depends if you want to live in that kind of society. I personally would not want to live in a society where people are being forced to take a jab. But I do think, given the high stakes, you've got to throw the kitchen sink at this. And if there are areas where people haven't received the information, then sending people door to door to speed up that rollout is definitely the right thing to do.
Well, Madeline, Peter, stay there. We're just going to cross over to California to discuss a story we'll come to later. The breaking news then that Tiger Woods is in hospital following a car crash in California. Let's speak now to my colleague at NBC, Jennifer Bjorkland, who's outside the Harbor UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles County, and a great deal of concern about Tiger's condition. What's the latest you can bring us?
Anna, we can tell you that we just heard from hospital officials that he is still in surgery. So several hours he's been in surgery on his legs after that call came in early this morning, 7:12. Two people, we were told, stopped their cars when they saw what happened, and we're told that the fire crews responding were able to get Tiger Woods out of his crashed vehicle pretty quickly by popping out the windshield and pulling him through. Now, people in the area this morning tell us it was not foggy. It was daylight at the time of the crash. We also know that law enforcement says it does not appear that there was any alcohol or any substance issues with Tiger Woods, although we know all of this will be part of the broader investigation. What we do know about this particular portion of road is that it's curvy and steep all at the same time. And if you're not familiar with the area, you can easily miss a turn and lose control, which may have been what happened. But that investigation underway, as we do know that the 45-year-old golfing icon is undergoing surgery on his legs. Looking at the damage to the SUV that he was in, it's not hard to imagine how badly injured he could have been, but there's no official word. We do know that he was alert and talking to the first responders this morning when they came to rescue him. He was on his way to the golf course, which had been reserved for Golf Digest, for a shoot that was happening, for a show that was shooting yesterday and scheduled for today. And he was in town over the weekend for the Genesis Invitational, a golf open that's played every year here that he was the host of. He awarded the trophy, was in good spirits, and talking about how he was hoping that he was well enough recovered from back surgery a few weeks ago to be able to play in the Masters starting on April 8th. And of course, now that's all derailed as he is in surgery at this hour here at Harbor UCLA Medical Center. Anna?
Yes, and certainly the Masters have paid tribute to him and wished him their very best, as do we. Jennifer, thank you very much indeed. Jennifer Bjorkland outside the hospital, which is currently treating Tiger Woods. And Peter, as we heard there, it makes the front page of a number of newspapers, The Guardian, The Metro, The Sun as well. Clearly still in surgery, and we do wish him well, don't we, Peter?
Yes, of course. And the images are quite, you know, we know we had the jaws of life, a kind of almost oxymoronic term for the kind of when you do have a smash like that, and you can see it in the front page of The Sun, and we've already seen this evening more images from the scene. It does look like a really horrific crash, and you know, it is an incredible career. It's a career that spans, you know, about 25 years at this stage. It's had lots and lots of highs and lows. And, you know, this is, in some ways, you know, he won the Masters again a couple of years ago for the first, having had kind of a huge nadir in his career from about kind of 2009-10. So he is a figure and a sportsman who's kind of had a checkered past, and this is in some ways, if he walks out of that crash, it will be it looks very serious. So hopefully it isn't as serious as it looks, and he will be able to come back again.
Yes, absolutely. So still in surgery with multiple leg injuries. As you say, fingers crossed he is okay. We'll certainly keep an eye on that story. Stand by. Lots more still to come. We'll have the very latest on Sturgeon versus Salmond. Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview. With me now, Parliamentary sketchwriter Madeline and the investigations editor at Open Democracy, Peter Geoghegan. Welcome to both of you. Let's go to the Financial Times now. A picture there of Nicola Sturgeon. It's got kind of interesting, hasn't it, in Scotland, between her, the SNP, and her predecessor, obviously Alex Salmond. And we are not now going to hear evidence from him tomorrow, Peter. Explain the significance of this, if you can.
Yes, well, tomorrow that's a big ask, because this has been one of these rolling stories that's been it's been going on almost for years in Scotland. But we thought that tomorrow we might get a bit more clarity, because Alex Salmond was due to appear before a Scottish Parliament committee that was looking into the investigation into the allegations around him. So, I'm sure some viewers remember about this time last year, Alex Salmond was cleared at the High Court in Edinburgh of a series of charges. But what's been going on is a long-running investigation into the Scottish government's investigation into Alex Salmond from a year earlier, which was found to be unlawful. And this basically, Alex Salmond had been poised to give evidence on this, but he's pulled out. He's alleging there's been a conspiracy by his former colleagues, by his former number two, his protege, Nicola Sturgeon, and senior members of the SNP. And he was due to give this evidence, but he's pulled out because it was because there was a submission that was published on the Scottish Government website on Monday evening, was then removed from the Scottish Government website, and kind of 6 sections of this 35-section submission were redacted. Alex Salmond has said he can't give his evidence with those redactions in place. And there's now talk that it could be, some reports this evening, that he could still make an appearance on Friday. And the expectation was that if Alex Salmond appeared, Nicola Sturgeon would then appear. And this story that's been in some ways a kind of a tinderbox waiting to really really kind of take fire in Scotland, would do so once Alex Salmond appears. So it's been a twist in this story, and it's still uncertain if Salmond will appear.
Yes, and just briefly, Madeline, everyone looking at whether people in Scotland care about this, because of course we've got elections in May, which seem to have deeper significance, don't they, in terms of independence and the future of Scotland?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's been, the SNP doesn't generally need much encouragement to see something as a sign that independence is the answer to all of Scotland's problems. But they were very much hoping for an absolute electoral whitewash at the upcoming elections. But actually, this is really starting to land. I saw a poll tonight that had them down by, I think, 10 or 11 percentage points in the opinion polls, which is truly fascinating. And also fascinating, as Peter said, to see how something that's been going on for a long time, something that began as more of a kind of bitter personal struggle between these two titans of the SNP, has kind of morphed into something that indicates a much greater sense of cronyism at the heart of Scottish politics. The critics are alleging that the Crown Office, which is Scotland's prosecuting authority, has become a kind of glorified wing of the SNP after refusing to reveal evidence that Alex Salmond says is crucial to his case, and demanding these large-scale redactions, which they do. They do, claiming that this would perhaps compromise the anonymity of some of the components in his case. But actually, that information has been available in the public domain for some time, and it doesn't appear to do that at all, which has led many people to question, were they simply told to do this by the SNP? To what extent is there meddling going on in the kind of judicial functions of Scotland from the Scottish National Party? So it has the potential to really create some waves, even in a country where the SNP has been in the ascendancy such a long time.
Yes, indeed, indomitable. I mean, one wonders whether the disappointment over the Scottish unlockdown is partly feeding into those figures as well. The Herald I see says outcry over Sturgeon's too cautious lockdown exit plan. And meanwhile, the Daily Mirror, in terms of England, the Great British Takeoff, they say, lockdown, weary sunseekers spark holiday bookings boom. The Yorkshire Post as well, hopes rising for an upsurge in tourism. We've got about 10 seconds left, Peter. Are you feeling more optimistic for oh, no, you don't even have that. I've overrun. We'll see you at 11:30. Never mind. Thank you both very much indeed.